Quiet on set, you damn kids! Who wants to make a short? We'll pay you in IMDb credits and experience. Lights, camera, action, it's I Don't Give a Flick, your favorite film podcast. Oh yeah, Tarantino, Mero, and Spielberg, here's looking at you, kid.
We talk movies and TV shows and sometimes other things we like.
And Nolan's coming right at your fucking face. Every minute of every day will never stop.
We'll talk lenses, music, and Foley. We'll understand the depth of field.
We've got theories so out of this world and epic it'll blow off your fucking tits.
Oh yeah, that was bullshit.
All right. Well, I guess we're just gonna have to do it the three of us tonight. That's gonna fucking suck. Just kidding. It's gonna be great, actually. We can actually all give thorough and thoughtful explanations on our choices for once without having to worry about time, because there's only three of us.
Well, that's not our strong suit, so.
Is it really just the three of us?
It is really just three of us.
Just the three of us. We can make it if we try. Just the three of us.
You
Neela
and
and
I, and you,
and you.
and that guy over there. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of I Don't Give a Flick. I am your host, Jonny Blackburn, and alongside me this week, as they are every week, are my partners in crime,
Gary Elmore.
And Neil Riley.
And this week, we are coming to you from sunny, warm Austin, Texas, inside Gary's kitchen, and then Neil is inside his own house. So not very
But
exciting.
you don't know where inside my house.
You are in your office.
Yeah, pretty sure you're in your office.
Damn it.
He's like, and foiled again. The plan has been...
The baby's room. God damn it.
The baby's room. Oh, man. Well, that is true. We don't know which room. He very well could have changed it for all we know.
He's in his office.
I'm in the office.
Neil
Okay,
is
you're in
very
the office
consistent.
still, okay.
Yeah.
Neil's like, I'm a creature of habit. I don't like change. Hey, we're the same way. I mean, we've been in this kitchen for, oh my God, almost a year now. Guys, we are, go back. At some point, we need to go back and we need to see the initial recording date for not only our first episode that we ever did, which is going to be in early May of last year, but then also the first one that we did with Neil, which should be in July of last year. Right, Neil? June of last year?
Probably June, because I know
June.
we started it right as COVID was locking everything down.
Yes. I think we did like the first 4 or 5 episodes, just us, and then you jumped in pretty early on.
And saved
yeah,
the show.
June. And
Yes.
of course. Yes. Our rating. Honestly, technically, he is right, because if you go back and look at the stats, after about the 5th or 6th week, we did start getting more viewership.
You're welcome.
Our first podcast was recorded May 14th.
Okay.
Of 2000.
We're almost at our year anniversary.
I know.
So we're literally gonna have our year anniversary episode like right when I'm about to leave. So that'll be fun.
Jonny is leaving the show, everyone.
Not leaving
due
the
to
show.
popular demand.
Due to
he
popular
is being
demand.
forced out.
Due to
We have read your letters and heard your pleas.
He is being replaced by John Lovitz.
Yes.
So.
Oh my God. Yes.
I might give up my spot for John Lovitz. I might have
Would
to do
you
that.
now, laddie?
I mean, I'd probably have to make multiple guest appearances, because who wouldn't want to be on a talk show with John Lovitz?
I would want to be on a talk show with John
Of course,
Lovitz.
yeah. Oh, Neil's saying he may not want to. Okay, Neil, you realize if John Lovitz listens to this episode and hears that, he's not going to come on the show like he initially planned.
I think that was more hesitancy to have you on as a guest.
That is correct.
That was a delayed response, though. That was a delayed reaction. That was unclear.
He's like,
He's like, I'm in my office. There's delay. I don't know. There's delay on hearing all this. Originally, if you guys, if Gary decides to keep our original banter in from the beginning, we had just talked about doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, you're gonna leave it in. I don't even know how much you actually take out.
It depends.
It depends on the episode. We talked about doing an kind of following in the footsteps of our latest episode, the Adam Sandler episode. We were going to do one on Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he has 79 movies listed I think, on his filmography for Wikipedia. Way too many to go over, even though The Governator is great. So we just figured we'd switch over to the greatest action stars of all time. Even though in the itinerary the episode says the rating system, that is inaccurate. Please ignore that.
Even though nobody besides the three of us will ever know that until you brought it up.
God damn it, Johnny.
Damn it.
Another reason he's being forced on the show.
This is why John Lovitz is taking my place. So we're going to be hitting everything from the old school, saddle westerns to kung fu to crime thrillers to action adventure and everything in between. As you guys know, this is one of those large genres that has a lot of subsets. So we're going to be talking about the stars that
paranormal action,
paranormal action romance, paranormal action romance at the Rhode Island Technical Community College of
Harold
State
Ramis
University.
is one of the greatest action stars of all time.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up. Technically, yes, that would be goddamn it, a paranormal action film. We'll be talking about the greatest action stars in a lot of these subsets and in action films in general. And we'll certainly get into some hotly contested debates. So I do want to jump into this. I just want to talk about, to preface all of this, let's talk about the different subsets of action films. So the easiest one, obviously, is we'll start with action adventure, which is probably one of the most famous ones. Certainly not the only one. What else you guys got? What else is another big subset of the action franchise?
I mean, just classic old westerns. You got a bunch of action heroes that came out of there.
Absolutely. Sure. Action. Go ahead.
I'm a big fan of the World War II action movies.
Wonderful.
A lot of good people back then.
Gary, what about you? Throw a couple in there.
There's kung fu.
There is kung fu. Yeah. Okay.
Then there's
it'd be great if you just put the sound effects in. That would be cool.
I put a lot of sound effects in.
You don't.
Then you've got along with the war movies, you've got just like straight up gunfight movies, like westerns, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so you look at, fucking crime thrillers, you've got classic, Die Hards and Lethal Weapons and a lot of those. And
although I would not consider a movie like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly an action movie.
Sure. Action is certainly a secondary piece of the actual film.
That's more of like a
dramatic western, I guess.
I guess you could put it that way. And then you've got like the police movies,
police films are big. Yeah. You have medieval movies. You got a lot based, anything based around
First Night,
anything based around King Arthur or a Conan, or even you've got there's
Red
tons.
Sonja.
You've got futurist. I mean, really, you could also put sci-fis in there, like sci-fi actions. You could throw Star Wars into that list.
This is a terribly broad category.
It is.
We are so screwed.
Oh my God! Thank God we're just talking about the actors and or actresses of whoever we decide to put in. Thank God, because yes, the more that we talk about this, the larger of a headache,
worse it gets.
The larger of a migraine I'm beginning to get. I want to check out your favorite genre, though. Traditionally, what your favorite is, Neil? What is traditionally your personal favorite? Is it the war films?
Yes, me personally, I'm a big fan of the war genre. World War II is one of my favorite eras in human history. So any films made in or about that time period are always going to hook me in.
Why is that exactly? Why do you? Because you talk about World War II a lot, and I know you're a history buff for that particular war and era in civilization history in general. Why do you like it so much?
Honestly, I think it takes me back to when I was younger. I used to build a lot of model airplanes with my dad, and they were always World War II airplanes. So I don't know. I guess I always just had a special connection there.
What's your favorite war movie of all time, or one of the ones that you just consistently can sit down and watch on repeat?
So my top World War II movies are going to be The Great Escape, The Dirty Dozen, and A Bridge Too Far.
Okay. All right. Those are all really good picks. I thought you were going to add Saving Private Ryan in there, but that's not really an action war movie. So
it was done by the best director of all time, though, Steven Spielberg.
What?
I mean, Scorsese is, the best.
At least we can all agree on the number 2 director of all time.
We can all agree on Tarantino being the second greatest director of all time.
Check out episode 37, Tarantino, the second greatest
You're
director
on
of all
Buzzsprout
time.
looking at that right now, aren't you?
I've got notes.
That would be very impressive if you had just memorized every episode one by one after another.
They all start to blend together in a haze after a while.
Yeah, there you go. That's one way to look at it. Gary, your favorite action subset, or maybe action adventure is your favorite type of action movie?
For me,
genre?
war movies are probably my favorite types of action
Oh,
movies.
both you guys, okay.
I also do really like the police action movies as well, like Dirty Harry. I think is a great series. But yeah, I really like action movies because generally they're very straightforward to the point. With you've got a good guy who's got to overcome these seemingly insurmountable odds and obstacles to achieve victory. Die Hard comes to mind with that, which is just really the perfect movie.
The greatest non-Christmas movie of all time, right? I guess that would just make it the greatest movie of all time.
Gary, insert Jonny.
Type a note to yourself.
Yep.
Type a note to yourself to cheaply re-edit that. So it makes it sound like I said that.
Yes, I will.
Nobody's going to go back and listen to that episode. You also didn't give an exact timestamp of when it happened. You should have. People would actually gone back and listened.
I have that clip saved since you.
It doesn't matter if you saved the clip
so many times.
The only way you can prove it is if people go back and listen to that episode and you give them the exact timestamp of when it happened in that episode.
I've got the audio. I'll just pop it in.
But that's not the same.
Anyway,
you could have doctored the audio for all the audience knows.
I can't doctor audio.
You can.
That would be
easy.
No, that would be
for
immoral.
Someone that has audio engineering skills.
That would be immoral to do that, Jonny.
Okay.
I promise you now, people that listen to this podcast, I will never doctor this audio.
I am not a doctor.
Well, that is true. Yes,
that's also accurate. Probably not something you run around and say.
Things that you are not.
Listen here, guys. I'm not a good person.
Yeah.
At all.
I'm not a chair.
I'm not a chair.
Don't sit on me.
Okay. I don't know how to crochet. Okay. It's just not something that I've ever been fond of. So if that is your favorite, what would you say is probably, regardless of whatever your top action star might be, what's your favorite action movie that falls into the cop? Since Neil did war, let's do yours. Let's do cop drama, buddy cop, whatever. What's your favorite?
Dirty Harry's really a great movie.
Okay. So
that might be my top one for kind of action. It's a lot different though than a modern action movie because it was made in the 70s. So it's really got a different tone to it. Like during the chases, there's no music or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's much different. There's a lot less shoot 'em up than there was in the 80s.
Okay.
And then into the 90s. So it's a much different kind of feeling for that.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's certainly a toss up, and I'm not going to go with my favorite one of all time because I do want us to get into that particular, because that my action star falls in line with my favorite action movie anyways. But I'm going to go, I was going to say sci-fi because just God, dude, just between Star Wars and the Matrix franchise in particular, the Terminator franchise, Predator, I'm going to have to go with Kung Fu. Honestly, I went through a gigantic Kung Fu phase in the late 90s and like as an adolescent and then again in my early 20s. And I mean, Legend of the Drunken Master, Enter the Dragon. I know it's kind of buddy cop, but even Rush Hour 1 through 3. Like I loved all of those, and Chris Tucker was funny and stuff, but I just love Jackie Chan. Mm-hmm. I love Bruce Lee. Legend was fantastic. Jet Li one. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is it was critically acclaimed, but I don't think people realize that has some of the most beautifully choreographed martial arts ever done in a film ever. It's just fantastic. It's mesmerizing. I love it. So anyways, favorite one of that, I would have to say though, maybe Hero, maybe. I still to this day I love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon so much.
Okay,
it's
so Johnny's favorite action movie.
I didn't say it was my favorite action movie. I said of the Kung Fu genre.
Well, what's your favorite action movie? Yes, Neil and I ours.
No, I asked you what was your favorite inside that genre that you mentioned. Yeah,
Okay.
so like I asked you because I know yours and mine are the same.
Okay, so inside the kung fu, it's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I'd say it would be up there.
Okay.
You know, Enter the Dragon is up there too, man. I mean, they're just God, they're so good. I'll go with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I may have seen that one the most recently. Gary, let's jump into it, man. What makes for a memorable action star? What do you look for? What do you look for when you're looking for an action star? Because this goes back to the episode we talked about when we were talking about the demise of Hollywood A-listers.
Mm-hmm.
Action stars are always at the forefront of Hollywood A-listers every single time. You know, I mean, you look at it, whether it's if Tom Cruise has his name on something, Vin Diesel for a long time, Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis,
The Rock.
The Rock, any of those,
Yeah.
Denzel Washington, any of these guys, and even some point to for a long time, Angelina Jolie. You can even look at actresses, Sigourney Weaver in the '80s, she had her heyday.
I guess Alien and Aliens would be action. I don't know; those are more like
I would
thriller
consider
to
those
me.
sci-fi. I would consider them a good sci-fi horror action mix on all three. Honestly,
Okay.
I think you can make a good argument.
It's in a lot of genres.
Yeah. And we've talked about this. Just
Yes,
the subsets
genres are
always
not clear.
cross section.
Yeah.
They're always crisscrossing and winding in with each other. So what makes a memorable action star to you? Doesn't have to be the genre. Just what do you look for? What do you like?
I think a memorable action star has to have a couple of components. I would say almost really number one, more than anything else, is they've got to have like really witty repartee, like lines that are kind of cheesy and dumb, but like, you remember them. So in the movie Commando, Arnold Schwarzenegger kills Bennett, which is the main antagonist of the movie, by throwing a pipe through him. Sure. And like it busts into a steam vent, and so all of this gas is escaping. And after he does that, he says, "Let off some steam, Bennett," which, is just so cheesy and wonderful.
It is.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, is the absolute undisputed king of those kind of one-liners. So I think you need to have, sort of that witty repartee. I think also you've got to have some really cool moves that you're doing, not necessarily like kung fu, but like whatever the genre is.
Right.
So, if it's, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Clint Eastwood in that, he's kind of got his look to him. He's got the poncho on, and when he's getting ready to do any sort of gunfighting, he kind of throws that over his shoulder, and like you can see his gun at his hip.
Yeah.
And then like he just kind of pew, pew, puts that kind of a move in there. So I think that also is key to it. So you've got like the look, the lines,
now,
and then
is that really? I don't mean to interrupt you, but is that the aesthetic look that they are genetically born with, or is that the smoldering, like they have to have a perfected character look for an action film, like something that they've kind of molded into?
Yeah, I don't even know if it's that, because like I think about like a movie like Shaun of the Dead, and it's a zombie movie, so it's not 100% action, kind of.
It has that's I'd say that's a secondary portion of that one for sure.
But like my point being, like someone like Simon Pegg, who's not like who you would think of like a big action hero.
Sure.
Like he does like a lot of cool stuff in that movie, some funny stuff, but like when he's like trying to like, shoot the gun and everything behind the counter at the Winchester bar. So I don't think you need to have a specific kind of smoldering look is what I'm saying. What I mean by that is you've got to just have a look that fits whatever the narrative is that you're kind of giving.
Sure.
And I know you hate this movie, but like Hot Fuzz, like kind of going back
I don't
to Simon.
hate Hot Fuzz, actually. It's fine. It's just
but kind of going back to that idea of like Simon Pegg, he's just kind of like pasty British guy.
he's a goofy looking dude.
Yeah. But like I think that worked for that particular movie because they have like a montage because he's supposed to be this really good cop in London that gets sent out to the countryside because everybody hates him.
Right.
And I think that montage worked because they shot it really well, and Simon Pegg's a really good actor. So I think the look, depending on where you're coming from, has to play into that kind of a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's just a character choice for whatever actor decides to do that. And you're right, the script is going to dictate how they're going to portray that, you know.
Right.
I've heard, and the reason I asked about the genetic aesthetic look, like how they just look in general, what they were, you know, their God-given gifts or what they were born with, is I've heard before, big movie stars and action stars in particular, they have to either be good looking or they have to just be naturally very large, imposing people. Like we go back to Schwarzenegger or The Rock, or a guy like John Wayne, you know, very larger than life individuals. You know, decent looking people for the most part. And then if you look at the smaller ones, you look at a guy like Tom Cruise, Matt Damon, you know, they're just good looking guys, but they have an athletic build. I don't agree with that. And I'll give you an example to your point. Jim Carrey actually had done, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Kick-Ass. Yeah. Okay. So there was a sequel called it was Kick-Ass 2. And Jim Carrey came in and kind of Nicolas Cage was the secondary, he was supporting role.
He was the father of the little girl.
He was of
Kryptonite.
That's right. Yeah, come on, baby. And he would like give her the codes were all like.
I love Nicolas Cage. We need to do an entire podcast on.
No, we can't do it on a bunch of actors. Our Adam Sandler one actually has not been doing that well. I looked at it today. And maybe that's just because it recently came out. But if you look at that, Jim Carrey is a tall, lanky, goofy, kind of spiny looking dude, and he just doesn't fit the standard profile of what a Hollywood A-list leading man would look like for the action genre. But he has a mask on, they put a little prosthetic, but the big thing that I noticed with that was how his demeanor changed from that film to his other comedies he had done. He had done another horror movie outside of God dang it, what was it called?
Cable Guy?
No. It was called 23? 21? No, not 21. 23, I think is what it was called. Something like that. And it was a horror film where he's the murderer, and he tries to find himself and finds out his wife did it, but then in the end finds out he did it or something like that. And the movie sucked, but his performance was very eerie turning because of the mannerisms that he chose to use, the way that he changed his voice. He changed it from talking like this and alrighty then and really high pitched, and you could see that he talked with a lower pitch. He was slower in his cadence and in his he was slower in his cadence and the tempo that he spoke in. And from there, I was able to believe him. I could believe seeing him as just a normal guy, a guy that could lead, you know, a band of heroes, or a guy that could potentially save New York City from a bomb, or he kind
of like Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo.
Sure,
how he presented much different. Or in, was that Finding Forrester? No.
No.
You like apples? How you like them apples?
Oh, Good Will Hunting?
Yeah.
See, Good Will Hunting, same thing.
Yeah.
He that demeanor that he came in with, he practiced it, you know? He actually gave the audience a different way of viewing him, and it was based off the work that he put in for it, you know? So yes, I think most actors or actresses, if they're able to mimic that, then they'll be able to be a successful action star. Because if you look at all the guys we just mentioned in action movies, there's typically somebody who speaks in a lower tone voice. They typically speak slower. There's comedy involved. There's okay comedic timing. But they walk around with that badass attitude. You know, the similarities between Angelina Jolie and Arnold Schwarzenegger in an action film is that. Like, that's what's similar for it. And I think that's what makes the memorable action star. It's kind of, I mean, it's absolutely formulaic because it's all the same across.
Well, I think you can also have an action star in a particular movie kind of rises up that you don't expect. So I think of like Harry Potter.
Sure.
Not Harry Potter, but Neville Longbottom, like in that last movie, like, because he also could have been the hero of Prophecy. And like, you know, he kind of steps up in that last movie. So it's an unexpected person, you know, who doesn't really have that sort of demeanor of an action hero.
I guess, especially for like a Harry Potter for a Harry Potter reference. Yeah, I mean that's a teenage kid.
Or
That's a teenage,
or the
you know.
Matrix. Neo
Mhm.
starts off as just this kind of nerdy accountant guy.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, it's probably one of the coolest action movies that was ever filmed.
Absolutely. But that goes back to my same point. What they all share in common is that in all these the leads in action films or even adventure films, they're typically going to have that same pitch, tone, the tempo, cadence in their sentences. You know, they're gonna kind of speak in the same way. You know, they're always gonna have that. I feel like they always have a smoldering look to them. Like they always just kind of have their eyes they're not squinting or anything, but they always just have this really strong stoic gaze for, I don't know, maybe 30 to 40% of the movie, maybe even more. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like anytime they're talking to somebody, like you and I are looking at each other right now.
Right.
Right now I'm just talking to you normally. But if I kind of just squint my eyes a little bit.
Oh my God,
and
who is this? Oh, I'm scared.
It's a different person. Oh my God. Please, sir, defend me from the hordes of zombies coming through the door. I don't know. But there's just a specific way that you have to look and you have to act when you're an action star. But that goes with any genre. When you're in a comedy, typically, you're going to hear when people are telling jokes, or they're laughing or they're really excited about something, it's going to be a lighter pitch and they're going to talk in a higher voice and they're going to speak maybe a little faster. I guess it kind of depends. I guess that's not that way for every movie, but for me, that's the thing. I think the other thing is the dedication to taking on the part outside of just the dialogue and the mannerisms. And I say this with Jackie Chan was a fantastic action star because he was already a martial arts expert, a kung fu master, and he did his own stunts.
Yeah,
and
I love the best parts of his movies are the credit scenes when you just see him getting the shit beat out of himself.
Yeah, and I mean in the one where he broke his leg and they had to put it in a cast, and he was like, "I'm still going to do the stunt."
Oh yeah,
so
Who Am I? Was that one?
Something, it might have been something like that.
And they took the zipper. Put a sock on.
Right. Yeah, they took a sock and then they put a zipper to like make his pants look longer, and then he just did it with a cast on his leg, and that's fucking phenomenal. If you look at Keanu Reeves, he has these YouTube videos out about him training to do John Wick, and he actually does tactical training with Marine and Green Beret specialists, where he goes through and he grabs whatever 9mm or automatic weapon he's using, and he goes through a target range, does the barrel rolls, picks up this weapon, shoots a couple things, goes over, picks up this weapon, gets a grenade launcher, launches it 50 feet down the way, blows up a target, and then moves to the next thing. When they have that type of dedication, to me, that's just as impressive as a dramatic actor who's maybe a method actor. That's just as impressive to me, because it shows that dedication, as much as like Daniel Day-Lewis pretending like he's Daniel Plainview 24/7 for 6 solid months when they were filming There Will Be Blood, or Heath Ledger as the Joker when they were filming Dark Knight. It's that same thing. And I think it's sad because it's overlooked. It's overlooked so often. They're like, oh, they're just action stars. They just, whatever. They just come in and they look good and they say a couple, witty one-liners that the screenwriter writes. And
also kind of going back to like the look of an action star, like it takes a huge amount of dedication, because you think of somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, like it's not easy, and I could speak from personal experience, to maintain a body that looks like that. It takes a lot of dedication. You got to spend a lot of time at the gym.
Yeah.
And, people like Arnold and Sylvester and myself feel like we do that to make sure that, like we're top of our
You're
game.
always in the gym, always juicing,
Yeah, pumping iron.
Yeah, you're pumping iron all the time, you know.
And I mean, that's like go to the gym like twice a day.
You're raging on roids all the time.
So, I mean, it is a huge amount of dedication. It may not be the same type of dedication that, of like sitting there in front of a mirror being like, I've got to feel this sadness to do this scene.
But it's dedication nonetheless.
Yes, exactly.
It is very much dedication, because these people are giving up their everyday lives and putting themselves through these rigorous training regiments or field exercises.
Yeah. I mean,
the diets that they have to stay on are ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know,
like in Saving Private Ryan, they had everybody except for Matt Damon go through a boot camp for like,
oh wow,
like 2 weeks or something, and like it was cold and wet, and like Tom Sizemore was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is terrible. And Tom Hanks was actually like, no, we gotta finish this up.
Yeah.
And
what I love is that they actually made Matt Damon watch them do it, so they would all hate him that they had to do all the exercises.
Yes, that's one of my favorite parts.
Great. I didn't know that,
because he just came in and like was just like watching him and didn't have to do any of that. So
oh my gosh,
it like a lot of that anger you see towards Matt Damon, I think is quite real.
Yeah,
actual real animosity.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Gary, for you, it's primarily the look that they have. The look
and the lines and
okay.
How they kind of carry themselves.
For me, it's the dedication to the behind the scenes portion of the craft.
Mhm.
Neil, what about you? What makes a memorable action star? What do you like to see?
I mean, I think memorable action stars come out of memorable movies, but I mean, it's always an ensemble of the script writing, the directing, and the actor. It's everything. But I think I would probably lean more towards Gary. I think there is a look like we joke about John Lovitz coming on the show, but I don't think I could ever see John Lovitz as an action hero. He doesn't have that look. But some people forget, like Sigourney Weaver. I put her as an action star. She did Aliens. Galaxy Quest. That's a great action movie right there. Yeah. But I think people that just have that look.
I think because you also look, there's a new movie that came out with Bob Odenkirk as the lead action star. I don't know if you guys saw the trailer for that. It's called Nobody, and he's just an average run-of-the-mill guy, and he's a former assassin. And the movie is just basically about him getting pushed too far, and he tried to, kind of like John Wick, he tried to quit, and he tried to leave a normal life, and they wouldn't leave him alone, so he fucking fought back, and it looks awesome. Mm-hmm. But same thing, like to Neil's point, like Bob Odenkirk he doesn't look like that, but I think
or Michael Douglas in Falling Down.
Yeah. I don't even know if that was, that was more just him just going insane. That was just him just going insane. But I guess
was he going sane in an insane world?
Normally I'd make fun of you for saying something like that, but I've seen that movie multiple, and it's true.
It's a great movie.
It makes sense. It is a good movie. But yeah, maybe he is just the first person who's sane in an insane world. Because he gives everybody many chances to leave him alone.
Not be assholes.
Many, and they're just all being dicks to him. So he's finally like, okay, fuck it, and he just starts killing people.
Yep, he sure does.
So to an extent, I agree with you guys. There certainly is a stereotypical way for people to look. I would agree that there's certainly a way that they need to act for sure. But for me, it's just got to be how genuine or authentic can you make it? Because sure, you can have a stunt double, but now that I know, when I knew that Jackie Chan did that, when I knew Keanu Reeves did that, when I knew Tom Cruise did stuff like that, that just made me like them so much more, that they would go through that extra effort to try and learn all of these things, and then complete it.
Well, going back to one of Neil's favorite movies, Steve McQueen used to do all of his own driving.
Yeah, he drove stunt motorcycles. Yeah,
Bullet. He
did.
He did a lot of the driving until he spun out and nearly killed a cameraman. And then they were like,
"Yes,
Steve McQueen, let's not have that. You." Bullet, by the way, has like an 11-minute chase scene, which is very interesting. If you've never had a chance to watch it,
it's got to be one of the best chase scenes of all time.
It's pretty damn great.
It's what is that? A 67 Mustang?
I think so.
What is the Bullet car? Oh my God.
Jeez. So let's segue into really quick. I have a feeling we're all going to be pretty close on this one. Maybe we'll all have the same one.
68 Ford Mustang. Sorry.
Okay.
Just had to
Very
put
nice.
that
There you go.
Just so everybody knows. What decade was the best for action heroes?
80s. I mean, is there any disagreement on that?
I mean, I'm going to say 80s.
You guys are so late. No, I'm not even going to pretend like I'm going to disagree with you. It's the 80s.
Yeah.
There's
I mean,
just hands down,
the 80s were so perfect because you had that conflagration of that excess that you see in the movies. You have the explosions. You have sort of the fun lightheartedness that's just in the right level. Because by the 90s, it starts to get a little kind of
the 80s
negative, and then like in the 70s, it was just really gritty. But in the 80s, it was so much fun and like just so over the top
one-liners
and like
so many one-liners.
Yeah, like movies were unapologetically awesome. I think in the 1980s, and I think that was probably absolutely hands down the best decade for action movies.
I can't disagree. I like to play devil's advocate so we can start a debate because people like to listen to that, but I can't argue with it. You're right. It's the 80s.
The 70s.
I mean, when you've got Die Hard, Terminator, Predator, Aliens, Lethal Weapon, Commando, that's RoboCop, Beverly Hills Cop. It's a great time.
It is. You're right. Yeah, the Aliens and the Predators.
Man. And it depends on what kind of movie you're looking for. Because if you want like a more like down to earth movie, the 70s would probably give you a better action movie.
Well, I mean, the best decade for dramas was the 90s for me personally. I don't think I could ever falter from that one. So I mean, you look at. I was debating with the 90s before because. I mean, honestly, I came across, Total Recall was around, True Lies, T2. I know those are
Total Recall was 1990, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
You had Demolition Man, The Fugitive, Speed
2.
Speed 2, yeah, Speed 2 is right. The Rock, oh my God, The Rock, Mission Impossible had just started.
Rock, yeah.
Mission Impossible had just started. Independence Day was around. I guess sci-fi action, whatever. There's just, Con Air was around.
And the 90s had a lot of really good movies.
They did. Fifth Element.
But there's no way it can compete with the 80s for action movies.
No, you're right. I mean, there's more memorable ones. Even though my favorite action film is in the 90s, I'll give that to you. God, there's just really there's really just nothing to argue with on that at all. And that's okay. That's fine. So I want to go ahead and, since we're not going to kind of elaborate on that one, there's really nothing to elaborate on.
No.
Let's jump into it. Let's jump into the meat of this. We're going to talk about it. Greatest action stars of all time. Okay. Let's go through here in no particular order. We're not going to go ahead and rank them like we did our best directors about a month ago. Let's go ahead. And I just want to hear one of your top 5 favorite action stars of all time. And okay, fun way about it. You cannot repeat anybody else's choice. So if that takes somebody out of your top 5, you got to find somebody else. Okay.
Already.
Okay. All right, Neil, I am going to let you first since Gary normally steals your ideas. So go ahead. Greatest action stars of all time. Who would be, it doesn't have to be your number one pick, but throw it out there.
No particular order for me. Top 5. I'm gonna say
just give me one for now. Give me.
I'm gonna say Keanu Reeves is in my top 5.
That's a very good one. And give us a brief. Give us a brief history rundown of what he's done that you've loved and why you love him so much. Why does he get to be in your top 5? Because there's just so many to choose from.
Well, it's like you said earlier. I have seen a lot of the behind the scenes stuff of him training and the dedication, just everything he did from The Matrix to Speed, Point Break, Constantine, John Wick. Mm-hmm. He's just such a good actor. But I mean, he was also in that baseball movie that gets me every time. Hardball.
Yeah. Great movie, by the way.
But yeah, I would put Keanu Reeves up there, and just the fact that everything I hear about him, he's just such a nice guy.
I hear that too. I always hear between him, Tom Cruise, and Adam Sandler are like the nicest guys on set. Super down to earth. They talk to literally anybody and everybody. I'd like to meet all of them. I don't even care that Tom Cruise is a Scientologist, which I just wholeheartedly can't get on board with at all. But I would love to meet the dude. I hear he's a super nice guy. Gary, I'm gonna let you go next. Who jumps into your top 5? And you can't say Keanu Reeves.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I fucking hate you.
Well, I mean, that's
no, it's fine. You're right.
Clearly, for action movies, I think that he's numero uno. I mean,
and we'll get into the best of all time in a second.
Yeah, but I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he's been in so many of the classic movies you think of when you think of an action movie.
This is true.
I can't even think of anyone who comes near him in terms of like cliche one-liners that he has in movies. Like he is like far and away.
Does a good action movie have to have a solid one-liner in it, though? It helps, obviously. It makes it more entertaining.
It depends on the type. Like The Matrix, I don't think would do well. Like you don't need that in the Matrix kind of movie, but
Sure.
like especially if it's a movie from like the 80s, like
Okay.
you really need to have like the Yippie motherfucker, or
absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that Arnold Schwarzenegger just like there are YouTube videos that are just like his top 500 lines, and like they're all classics.
Oh my god! Top 500. God, how long would that take you to get through all those?
It's usually like 32 minutes or so.
God, I can't think of anybody that has done more great films in more than one language altogether than my pick, Jackie Chan, for sure. God, dude, I don't think people remember how awesome kung fu films were. I mean, nowadays in our generation, like, yeah, Jackie Chan had his heyday from the late 80s to the early 2000s, and then he did The Tuxedo, and he had a bunch of other crap. I mean, he voiced in Kung Fu Panda, where he didn't have a ton of lines, but he was just such an iconic staple of not only karate films but action films, and I'm not just referring to Rush Hour. You know, I mean, Rush Hour 1 and 2 were fantastic, but he had a new one recently called The Foreigner, which was actually pretty underrated.
Was that the one in Ireland or whatever?
Yes, yeah, with Pierce Brosnan. Yeah.
Jackie Chan's had just like his early work from like even like Drunken Master from the 70s.
The Drunken Master, I really have a hard time outside of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I mean, you know, Legend, Hero, they're all great too. But Drunken Master, it might be my favorite movie. It really is. It's the crappy ADR, but the kung fu is just beautiful, and it's real, and it's choreographed like a dance, you know, and it's just perfect timing, you know. And there's just, I mean, people forget. I don't care. You know what? I loved Shanghai Noon, and I love Shanghai Nights. I thought they were both great.
They were great. Yeah.
I mean, Owen Wilson was a fine comedic partner, but Jackie Chan carried that film to me. He also carried Rush Hour for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure did.
Yeah. I would say my favorite Jackie Chan movie is Who Am I?, which I think was like the early 90s. I think that's got his best fight scene in any of his movies.
What?
When he's on top.
Yeah.
When he's on top of the building and he's fighting those two other guys. And that's also the one where he like slides down the side of that skyscraper along the glass.
There were some really, Rumble in the Bronx
Also
had some
great.
really great ones, and so did First Strike. First Strike in general was not that great of a film, but he
Police Story, that was a great one too.
I mean, there's always a lot of talk about Bruce Lee starting it all, and to an extent they're right. You know, Bruce Lee was a champ, but Jackie Chan was the one that made it international, and he's the one that made it universal.
He's the one that introduced it to the masses.
Right.
Like,
you know, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, they came around the same time as Jackie Chan. They would not have been, Steven Seagal, they would not have been nearly as popular if Bruce Lee and then Jackie Chan following him had not, created such a wildfire that there was just so much real estate to collect all of these other actors, tinier actors that weren't as good. They were like, hey, I'll grab up this and I'll grab up this. Because you look at Seagal and Van Damme and Norris. Yeah, they were all good martial artists, and some of their movies were entertaining. I mean, Bloodsport is one of my favorite bad action movies of all time, if not my most favorite. Time Cop's hilarious, but they're just not as good as a Jackie Chan film. I'm sorry, I'll ramble all day. I normally do, but Jackie Chan is on mine.
He also seems like one of the nicest people you could ever meet.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if he is or not, but just in all of the outtakes and everything, he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah. He just seems like a lot of fun. Seems very lighthearted, and so I wonder, I wonder if that's a ruse, or he's like, I would prefer to believe that it's not a ruse.
Yeah.
And he's actually like that.
I mean, just in the outtakes, though, I don't think you could fake that, because like we've seen his outtakes for like 30 years now. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think he's a nice guy, and that's how I choose to see him.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm going to agree with you on that all day long.
We hope that you are enjoying this rousing episode of Let Feather Productions' I Don't Give a Flick. To help us bring you more of the content that you love, please consider following us on Patreon at patreon.com/letfeather. There are 3 tiers to choose from, with special and exclusive merchandise in our VIP level. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.
We'll snake draft this since I got to go third. I'm gonna throw a little. No, I'm not. I'm gonna save that for Neil, because I know Neil's gonna pick that one. So I'll save it for you, Neil. Okay, you're welcome. By the way.
All right.
I'm probably gonna have to go for me. I would also probably have to throw. God, man, I would probably have to throw Will Smith in there for mine. I would have to throw Will Smith.
Okay.
Will Smith in my top 5. I could go to the. I'll save the other one for later. But I mean, if you look at all the Bad Boys, if you look at I still loved iRobot. I thought I Am Legend was really good. I really enjoyed Independence Day, Men in Black.
Did you see was it Gemini Man, the most recent one he did?
I didn't see it. Did you like it?
I did not see it either. It looked interesting though.
It looked good.
Yeah.
And I think Ang Lee directed that, if I'm not mistaken. The guy that did Brokeback Mountain and
Crouching
Life of Pi.
Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
And Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, exactly. I think Will Smith is not one of those guys he's not one of those necessarily a hand-to-hand combat action star, but he is a come in, guns blazing, badass attitude.
Wild West.
Wild Wild West. And I liked Wild Wild West.
It's a great fun movie.
It is, man. And I love that Will Smith does the soundtrack to all of his films in the 90s. Mm-hmm. I love that he does that.
I love that he doesn't write songs. He just takes songs and changes the words.
Yeah. And they're clean for some reason. I don't really care about that part, but yeah, I just love it, And maybe I'm biased because I grew up watching Fresh Prince, and that was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. But he's one of the few action stars also that has really impeccable comedic timing, and I really love that in an action film if they just kind of sprinkle it in. Oh God, I didn't say all these other actors are popping into my head, but I can't say anything. All right, so that's my list so far. Jackie Chan, Will Smith, Gary, go.
I'm going to say Bruce Willis for mine.
Okay.
I think Bruce Willis, he's not like sort of the greatest like fisticuffs. Like he doesn't have the martial arts or anything. I don't believe that. As John McClane in the Die Hard series, he's, very believable.
Sure.
But what he has maybe like top tier level, like maybe 1 or 2 for me, is just like that kind of that smirk that he gets, that side smile.
Yeah.
And it's just, he has it in most of his characters,
right?
But it's just such it's endearing, I guess, right. And like great to watch. And I think that adds so much to the enjoyment of his characters, whether it's Fifth Element or John McClane or whatever movie he's in.
Right.
He's certainly not as prolific as some of the other people on the list, like Jackie Chan and Arnold Schwarzenegger have done many movies, but like Bruce Willis is like, he's got great comedic timing too, like Hudson Hawk was a fantastic movie.
Sure.
Was that Hearts War, the Vietnam one? I think
that one I don't think I saw, actually, unfortunately.
Okay.
So what outside of the Die Hard series, and I guess Fifth Element, or what would you say is your favorite Bruce Willis? I'm just curious because he's
there was an episode of Mad About You where he played himself, and he and Paul Reiser had to escape from the hospital, and it was like kind of Die Hard-esque. For me, his best role, of course, is the original Die Hard.
It's John McClane.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that's his best action role.
You could make a strong case for that to be the best action movie of all time. I don't personally think it is. It's up there, but you could certainly make a strong case for it. Okay, so Gary, your list: Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis. I've got Will Smith, Jackie Chan. Neil, you're stuck with Keanu Reeves, and who's your second pick?
Oh, I'm not gonna say I'm stuck with Keanu Reeves.
You got Keanu Reeves. It's a good one.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw in my top 5. We'll go with kind of a newer one. I really hadn't seen him until he did Transporter, but Jason Statham has popped out as a very big action hero, action star.
Yeah, he was great in
Spy.
Yeah,
he was hilarious in Spy.
Yeah, he was good in Spy. I love the Italian Job. The Transporter series was good, and then of course the Expendables are over the top for no reason, but everybody in the Expendables are great.
Just no reason at all. Just but he's just so fantastic. He's one. Did you guys ever see? Oh, what was the one where he could charge himself up like a battery? Juice. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, something like that. Or
something
Crank.
Crank. That's it. Crank. Yeah.
And I thought he was taking drugs for that one.
I think he got poisoned, and he had to like keep jump starting his heart to keep the heart rate up.
Right. That was a fantastic film. I love how every single time he would like juice up, he would see everything almost like a video game, and then he would go through and just beat the shit out of people.
I will say that movie looks very calm next to Hardcore Henry.
Oh, Hardcore Henry,
I don't even think I can remember any of the actors.
First person the entire time.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that one actually didn't give me
motion sickness.
I didn't get any motion sickness from it. I was surprised. I really was.
I was too. The only famous guy in that was who was the guy that was like the scientist, the crippled scientist guy at the end.
That's right. I only saw it that one time at the Draft House. Yeah. But yeah, no, that was fantastic. So Neil, who is going to go ahead? Who are you adding in next?
I don't know if this is the one you were saving for me. He's not. I would not think what people would typically say is like an action hero, but I think Sean Connery plays an excellent action star.
Okay.
All of his James Bonds are great. He was in The Untouchables, The Rock, obviously Indiana Jones. He wasn't very much. Not much action there, but like The Hunt for Red October, I think he plays a very good action movie.
Absolutely, and I think it also helps that he has a real. Honestly, I think that people from the British Commonwealth make very good action stars. They're also very good dramatic actors. When we talk about Jason Statham, we talk about Sean Connery.
Well, the British Commonwealth is like a third of the world, so I mean,
I know, but I'm saying like they're from Australia, or New Zealand, or Wales, or Ireland, or Scotland, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't want to say just England,
Canada. William Shatner.
Yes, Rick Moranis is the epitome of an action star. When I
would love. I guess My Blue Heaven, he was kind of an action star.
No, Gary, no,
kind of,
no. Sean Connery, that is also a good one. So Neil, you would say that Connery is your favorite Bond, correct?
Yeah.
My favorite what?
Your favorite Bond, your favorite James Bond.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, Gary.
Yeah, that's not even a question.
Okay.
So you shouldn't even ask that question, Johnny. You're off the podcast. Good God,
you're out of here.
You're out of here, John.
I know
Lovitz.
You like Daniel Craig.
You're in John Lovitz. I do like Daniel Craig. I didn't for the longest time at the beginning, and then I watched Casino Royale like another 20-something times, and then I watched
just that scene where
Quantum
they
of Solace and what's up?
The scene where they take the that sack and just like smack him in the balls and Casino Royale.
And here's the thing: it may not even necessarily have been that. You guys know this about me, and this is why I love the Marvel movies so much. When they humanize the main character, and they still make him heroic, but they give him flaws, they give him faults, they show him have a wider range of emotion than just stoic and heroic. I feel like that should be the name of an episode, actually. Stoic and Heroic, episode 40.
There you go.
Well, I mean, I'm like you. I didn't really care for Daniel Craig at the beginning, but the James Bond series had become so over the top and comedic. It was really nice to see them reset it and bring him back down to a normal person and not gadgets and all the high-tech stuff.
Yeah, the Pierce Brosnan doing the green screen with the avalanche, that was kind of jumping the shark.
I just was never
jumping the shark. All right,
just never a Pierce Brosnan fan when it came to James Bond.
I thought he did GoldenEye really well.
GoldenEye wasn't a bad. What else was he in? Tomorrow Never Dies. Was that him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is Michael's favorite James Bond movie.
Michael's favorite. Okay. And it very well could have been. It could have just been a change of the times, because we've talked about this. We only started to see this with heroes and action movies and we started to see scripts expand they started to get away from the stereotypical of what their genre had been playing off of for the last 50, 60 years once the 90s and early 2000s hit. And that's when Daniel Craig took over as James Bond. So it could have been the screenwriting. Maybe if Sean Connery was the same age at a different time and he played that part, maybe he would have been my favorite. Now, as far as like stereotypical James Bond, absolutely, I'll agree with you guys. Sean Connery is number one for sure. But yeah, no, Daniel Craig is my favorite because of how he portrayed it in those last 4 films, even though I did not like Spectre very much. Okay, no, that's a solid 3, man. Gary, who's your third?
I'm going to put up Mel Gibson.
You son of a bitch. You've taken 2 of mine already.
I know. That's what I do, Johnny.
Damn it.
That's what he does. It's what he does.
Keeping the money moving. Keeping the money moving.
But yeah, like Mel Gibson, I think he's
he's great.
Another
He's
guy
fantastic.
from the Commonwealth. Yeah.
He's Australian.
He's been in everything
He's an
from
Aussie.
like post-apocalyptic Mad Max to war movies like
We Are Soldiers.
We Were Soldiers.
He did
Yeah,
Braveheart.
Yeah,
all
so
the Lethal Weapons.
Yeah, Christmas movie like Lethal Weapon. Yeah, he's got a lot of really good one-liners too. And,
He does.
I think Mel Gibson's a very talented actor, and like
Sure.
like you think of like Ransom, like the movie where his kid gets taken.
Ransom. It's so funny you say that. I forgot how much I love
a much
Ransom.
different than the original movie, but still a very good movie.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, Mel Gibson, I think really is a solid action star.
Okay. What's do you know what your favorite of his would be?
Probably Braveheart. I mean, there's so much to that movie. It's like got a lot of drama and action and like political intrigue to it.
Right.
And action isn't even really the main focus of Braveheart, I wouldn't say.
Right.
But I think that they do it so well because they get like thousands of extras to film these complicated battles.
Sure. Uh-huh.
And it's really well done. Like there's so many lines from Braveheart that I think of like when the English king's like, shoot him with arrows. And the guy's like, but we'll hit our own men. And he's like, we'll hit theirs as well. I mean, it's such yes, it's just such a monarchical thing to say, But yeah, I'm going to say Braveheart for Mel Gibson.
Okay. Well, since Neil didn't jump on it, I'm going to go ahead and jump on it. I'm going to throw Harrison Ford into my list. I absolutely thought you were going to jump on Harrison Ford. Man. All right. Well, I messed that one up. Anyways, I mean, if you're going to talk about a guy that can legitimately claim he has as many number one top list action films as Schwarzenegger or Jackie Chan or if you think about it at this point, or Keanu Reeves or anything like that, Ford, and he may not be the main character in all of them necessarily, but he's pretty damn close. You got to include the Star Wars. You have to. You have to include all of the Indiana Jones. You have to include Air Force One, The Fugitive,
Patriot Game, Clear and Present Danger.
Any Tom Clancy. Yeah, any film that you
just two.
What's up?
Because then Alec Baldwin was also Jack Ryan, and then
okay,
in the Red October.
Yeah, sure.
It all circles back to Sean Connery.
It does. That's right.
Sean Connery.
I've seen Blade Runner on the list. I don't know if I consider that an action. But it's that same thing. He has that smoldering look to him. He's the stereotypical a good-looking guy of athletic stature. That's what you would typically tend to see as the stereotypical male action figure, or male action hero. And he fits that and plays it well, So yeah, I would throw Harrison Ford up in mine for sure. God, my favorite one of his, I do love Air Force One a lot. And The Fugitive is honestly kind of on the line of being action. It's really more crime thriller than anything else.
Yeah, it's really more of a cat and mouse kind of chase.
Yeah.
I wish Tommy Lee Jones had done like 30 of those movies because they did The Fugitive and then U.S. Marshals. Yeah.
And then that was Robert Downey and Wesley Snipes.
They had kind of like this team going because they had the same cast that was helping.
Yeah.
But they only did those 2, and that was always really sad.
They definitely could have kept that going for sure.
Yeah, because those were great.
Yeah. Do you guys think that? Because oh gosh, I guess it would have been Tom Clancy. They didn't really take a ton of John Grisham's novels and turn them into. I guess they did Pelican Brief.
They did a whole crap ton. The Firm.
Yeah, they did The Firm. Okay, I guess they did do a lot of them. These just didn't pop directly into my head. Okay, so I have a little list going for all of us here, so I'm gonna add this to mine. I'll take Harrison Ford all day. And then for my next one, since Gary decided to steal 2 of mine.
Thank you.
And it's fine. This guy was already on my top 5 anyways. Huh?
Who was the other one I stole?
You took Mel Gibson and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Come on, man.
I mean, yeah. In general though, Denzel Washington is going to be up there for me every single damn time. Not only is he one of my favorite actors of all time, just in general, but he
also marries people at the Oscars.
He does marry people at the Oscars. Yeah, he just ordains himself as a minister online and marries them.
Yeah,
I would love to be.
What was that
married by
2018 Oscars that they did that?
Something like that. Yeah, 2019. Yeah, 2019. It was it was about 2 years before the pandemic. Yeah. I guess that would make that sounds about right. If you look at everything from, especially people don't recall a lot of his mid 2000s to mid 2010 the action spree that he had there. If you look at Man on Fire, Equalizer 1 and 2, Training Day, which I know is a drama, but that's also a fucking action movie. There's a lot of badass fucking scenes in that, and there is nobody who delivers a line and comes off as a badass, like legitimate badass, without being 6'5" better than Denzel Washington. And I challenge you guys to find me somebody and feel free to argue with me about it, but I can't think of anybody else who has better line delivery from a badass stance. That just makes me think, wow, I would not want to fuck with this guy in a back alley better than Denzel Washington. Just saying.
So you're saying like a line like, so from a bad guy or like just like a tough guy?
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's also stolen the show in action movies as a villain, not just a hero, you know? And I know we're talking about action heroes, but if we're talking about action movies and he's still an actor in it, he still steals the show. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is chess. It ain't checkers. King Kong ain't got shit on me. I know that's Training Day and all. But God, man, I just
on this field, people died, brothers and sisters. I can't remember.
Remember the Titans? Yeah. We got to talk about greatest sports stars at some point.
Maybe with Nick.
That's right. That's right. And with Denzel, he's just one of those guys that you have to stop what you're doing and just watch him. You just have to. It doesn't matter the movie. He had a really underrated movie called The Book of Eli with Gary Oldman that he did. It was based in a post-apocalyptic world, and it was like The Book of Eli was supposed to be like a version of the Bible, and whoever held it had the key to salvation for mankind or something. And he had a gun, but also a sword that he fought with. And Denzel is not one of those guys. He's not one of those guys that's really good with the
physical aspects of life.
It's not that, because he's actually good when you look at the hand-to-hand combat. You look at, and I know The Hurricane's a boxing movie, and you asked me if Rocky was considered action, and I said no. I was like, I would consider it because it's a sport.
Yeah.
And you can make an argument.
And
for
Rocky's like almost a drama, really.
It's a sports drama.
Because the fighting is just
absolutely
the dramatic piece of it.
But Denzel is I think Denzel's good at hand-to-hand combat, what you might learn in like special ops training, but I don't think like Kung Fu, I wouldn't be like, oh, Denzel Washington, he's one of the best action stars when it comes to gunfights. I put him up there with Keanu Reeves. I put him up there with Bruce Willis, even, Tom Cruise, especially, that kind of stuff. So there's just so many from him. There's a ton. Jeez.
Yeah.
Anyways, cool. So I will digress and on to Gary.
Milla Jovovich, who
really?
Yeah, I mean, I
that's
think
the first actress off the board is Milla Jovovich.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't even know you liked her.
I like her she makes the board for 2 movies for me. I know Resident Evil is probably the more actiony of the movies that she's done, but I really liked her in The Fifth Element a lot.
I figured you were going to mention The Fifth Element.
I don't know if like how much of that was stunt double and how much of that was her.
Sure. Yeah.
But I also really liked her in The Messenger, the story of Joan of Arc, which was kind of a war movie, kind of a drama. So kind of an action. But like I thought she had kind of a range in that.
Right. Okay.
I really haven't seen her in a whole bunch of stuff outside of those like 3 movies. But yeah, I'm gonna put her up on the board.
Wow. All right.
All right. She's up on the big board.
She is up on the big board. That's a surprise, but I like it. Okay. Neil, what about you?
I'm going to go ahead and throw out a softball that I'm surprised no one's picked up yet and say Sylvester Stallone.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. Stallone. And what has he done that has really caught your eye that you really loved?
I mean, I enjoyed the first couple of Rockies, and before they started getting, a little hokey, I did enjoy his fight with Dolph Lundgren. He did Cliffhanger. He was in Tango and Cash.
Yeah, Cliffhanger.
He was obviously Judge Dredd.
Yeah, the one guy that could compete with Schwarzenegger in the 80s.
That's Rambo, good. Maybe.
Like, all the Rambos. Yeah, all the Rambos.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, good pick.
Although whenever I think of Rambo, I always think of Hot Shots Part 2 when he puts the chicken in the bowl.
Who would be your fifth? Who would round out your top 5 there?
So I'm going to go ahead and round it out with Kurt Russell.
Okay,
that's a good one.
He was big in the 80s. Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China. I liked him in Stargate. He was also in Tango and Cash.
Okay. Gary, what about you?
I've got a whole bunch of people on my list that I've compiled here, like, Clint Eastwood, John Wayne. But I think I would have to put Tom Cruise. I don't think anybody said him yet.
Nobody did say Tom Cruise. Yeah. I am surprised at that one. He would. Yeah. He's up there.
I am surprised. He's
I think that the Mission Impossible movies are almost all of them are really good. There's only one of them I didn't like, and I think that was the second one. But I thought those were all interesting. I think his Jack Reacher movie was really, really good because it's more of a realistic kind of combat. Like
sure.
There's this one part where he comes out of a bar and there's like 5 guys that are trying to like take him down. And he's like, please don't fight me. And like, so he fights him and he gets the crap kicked out of him, but he ends up winning. But it's not like kind of just a knock them all down. It's like how a realistic fight would go. So I think that despite his short stature, he is tall on this list.
Very well put, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very well put. John Lovitz would be proud if you were here. Absolutely.
I would love to see John Lovitz in an action movie.
I would watch
with Tom Cruise.
Yes.
With Tom Cruise.
They could be buddy cops or something.
Oh my goodness.
No, Cruise would just carry it. He could just continue to play the comedic fat partner.
Tom Cruise?
No. Yeah, Gary, Tom Cruise. John Lovitz.
Well, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger worked.
Yeah, but Danny DeVito was the fat comedic relief. Well, I guess he wasn't really that much of a comedic relief.
Also, Arnold Schwarzenegger's hilarious.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is hilarious. He's a much more versatile actor than people give him credit for. Absolutely.
They just, I think they get caught on his accent because he's always got a real thick accent. But
sure,
like his range is actually fairly decent.
Yeah. For mine, this one actually took me a while, and I'll give this to you. I was trying because honestly, I was kind of going back and forth a little bit. You had said Tom Cruise, and that was kind of my last one, kind of. And I was like, Clint Eastwood too, but I was like, Clint Eastwood also does a lot of like action dramas, and I was like, more drama than anything else. So I kind of wouldn't let him be in the action area by himself. Nicolas Cage popped up, and then I was like, he hasn't done actually that many action movies. He's done, outside of Face Off and Con Air and The Rock, I guess he's done a few others.
Kick-Ass.
I mean, yeah, I guess Kick-Ass, but he's also versatile too, and people don't give him that credit.
National Treasure. Which I did like both
action.
of those movies.
Oh, that's a great movie. Yeah. But the ones that kept popping in, Sigourney Weaver was popping into my head, and Angelina Jolie in particular were popping in. And God, dude, just Wanted and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and even Lara Croft Tomb Raider, which I didn't think that first movie was actually that good, but she was badass in it.
Is Wanted the one where they curve the bullet?
Yes, with James McAvoy and Morgan Freeman, and and her. And then Sigourney Weaver had the Alien franchise, and then outside of that, she didn't have a ton. She had a bunch of other movies, but she didn't have a ton of other action
Galaxy
films.
Quest.
Galaxy Quest. She wasn't an action star in Galaxy Quest. Though.
She was an action star.
She was not in that one. She was the damsel in distress.
Look, I have one job. It's stupid, but I'm going to do it.
And then Uma Thurman pops in too. It's like in the Kill Bill 1 and 2. She's fucking badass in that. Michelle Rodriguez, all the Fast and the Furious movies, and all of these women were really good in particular in one long-running franchise. None of them they didn't really spring out, and they didn't,
like Jennifer Lawrence in the Hunger Games thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't do enough. I guess Jolie would have done the most because a lot of her stuff wasn't a franchise. It was all one movie. But then I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know what? As iconic as Sigourney Weaver's character is in Alien, the top female action star character is fucking Linda Hamilton in the Terminator series. Absolutely, hands down for me personally. One of my favorite parts of T2 is just her. She's just so awesome. Like I would be afraid to date her because she could just beat the shit out of me. She's so intimidating. But she's just so cool. Like every line from her character. And she was the perfect narrator for Judgment Day, by the way. I remember we were watching this the other night. If she hadn't narrated
Arnold would
that,
have been a terrible choice.
What's up?
Arnold would have been a terrible choice.
He would have been a bad choice.
It was a dark road.
Instead of having you wouldn't have another random actor or have Robert Patrick, the guy who also has a wonderful speaking voice, by the way. The guy that played the T-1000. Having any of them do it, or having fucking you bring in James Earl Jones or Alec Baldwin, or you know what I mean, David Attenborough or something. Having somebody else narrate that, it wouldn't have been the same if you didn't have Sarah Connor. The two most iconic action female heroines are Ridley. That's
Ripley.
Ripley, excuse me. Thank you. Ripley. See, she's not that iconic. I didn't remember.
Believe it or not.
And yeah, exactly. And Connor for sure. And I was very close to putting her on that top 5 because of that. But I ended up actually going with Kate Beckinsale.
From Underworld?
Yeah, man. If you look at it, I'll explain why. I'm going to explain why. Okay?
Okay.
And it's coming. Okay?
All right, I'm waiting.
All right. First off, I just absolutely love the Underworld franchise. I mean, outside of Blade... God, man, Blade was really good too. Wesley Snipes I was considering. But yeah, no, the Underworld series is just so cool. It's the same thing with Linda Hamilton. She just comes through and steals the entire scene. And no matter, even with Bill Nighy or the slew of other great actors that they put in the Underworld franchise, which is, in my opinion, the most underrated action franchise that there is. I still watch all of them when they come on TV today. Even the third one, Rise of the Lycans, without her in it, was still really good. But it severely lacked the oomph that they had without her character.
Who underrates those movies?
Underworld?
Yeah.
I have known a lot of people that haven't even seen them, let alone heard about them.
Oh.
I know.
Okay.
I know, right? I'm not saying from this panel.
Right.
I'm just saying in general, when I talk to people about it, because, especially when it comes around Halloween, you talk about horror films and vampire movies are always up there. And people always mention oh, I loved Interview with the Vampire so much, or, oh, I loved the newest What We Do in the Shadows, or I love Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love Blackula. Well, they're all good movies, you know, but Underworld, it takes... I mean, it actually shows you a battle between Lycans, which are werewolves, for those that don't know, and then vampires. And then it takes you from the very beginning, shows you the history over a millennia, and then ends it with a modern day underground war. And I just think that's so awesome. Blade was really close to doing that. I thought they really I thought they stumbled in the second one pretty hard and tried to pick it back up in the third with adding Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel in, but still really good. Anyways, outside of that, if you guys haven't seen Whiteout or Van Helsing, which with the Hugh Jackman one,
Yeah.
it was a stupid movie.
Or Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Was she in that?
No.
Isn't that Leslie Nielsen?
Yes.
Well,
I thought we were just talking about vampire
no,
movies.
Gary, we're just talking about
sorry,
vampire
sorry.
movies this way. And then she was also starring in all the Resident Evil movies. I'm sorry, that was Djokovic. Excuse me.
I was going to say, what? Am I having a stroke?
But because of that, I would totally go see her in any action movie she was in. Even the remake of Total Recall wasn't as good as the original, but I still liked it a lot. She was in it.
What about Carrie-Anne Moss?
Carrie-Anne Moss is great.
Yeah.
What else has she been in outside of the Matrix series that was
no
action
action
related?
movie I can think of.
Yeah. There's an argument you can make for a lot of people, and I might be biased because I love the Underworld series so much, but I'm going to say Kate Beckinsale.
Okay.
Anyways, so from our current top 5 that we've got rolling in here, let's go ahead and let's start removing. Let's try to agree on a top 5 between the three of us.
Okay.
Let's try to agree on
Who
our
is the
Mount Rushmore
of 5
plus
people?
1. The Mount Rushmore plus 1. You sarcastic ass, Gary.
Okay.
So
Are we doing it the same as we usually do? If one person says no, they're out.
1 hour, 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Neil, I'm going to let you go first. Let's go ahead and why don't you pick somebody from either? It can be anybody's list. Just to review, Gary's top 5 was Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mel Gibson, Mila Jovovich, and Tom Cruise. Neil, you had Keanu Reeves, Jason Statham, Sean Connery, Sylvester Stallone, and Kurt Russell. I had Jackie Chan, Will Smith, Harrison Ford, Kate Beckinsale, and Denzel Washington. Okay. So Neil, who would you put on the top 5 Mount Rushmore plus 1 of all time?
Well, I'm going to go right dead center, and I'm going to say Arnold Schwarzenegger has to be on that Mount Rushmore.
No argument here.
No argument here. I think we can consistently agree that he might be the greatest action star of all time.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else. Maybe Jackie Chan, but like
I mean, it's an underrated movie, but Running Man is one of my favorite movies, and he just killed it in that movie.
yeah, Running Man's never like considered. Like,
Absolutely, man. And and since we talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger, let's bring it up. I think the greatest action film of all time is T2 Judgment Day. I've never wavered from that once in my life. I don't know about you guys, but Gary, what do you think?
I like Conan is really good. I love.
You think it's
Conan.
better than T2 though? Really?
I don't know that I'm prepared to make a decision on that. Like Conan, like
You told me after we watched this the other night that T2 was your favorite action movie. Of all time.
T2 might be. T2 might be. It's tough. It's not an easy choice.
It's those subtle nuances that they have in. I mean, just like we talked about when Sarah Connor grabs that nightstick after beating the shit out of that guy, she does like a little baseball hop to get herself running, and then she runs on the balls of her feet. I don't know why, but that's such a fucking cool
and
way
the Foley
to
is so
to
good
move.
in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Foley, whoever the Foley artist was, people really underestimate the sound that you need to make a good action movie work.
I mean, T2 is an incredible movie. It's an incredibly awesome action movie. So
Best action movie ever.
no argument there. And probably the Hasta la Vista line is probably the number one action quip line. I can't think of a bigger one off the top of my head.
Neil, what about you? What's your just favorite action movie altogether in general?
I mean, T2 is pretty good.
It is.
But of course, Predator's up there. The original Predator with Schwarzenegger, Ventura, Carl Weathers. Aliens is good, but I would probably say my favorite action movie would probably be Aliens.
It's interesting because, like, I think we all like Aliens more than Alien, right?
Sure.
And I think we all like T2 better than the first Terminator.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Even the first one was great. It's just not as good as the second.
And none of us like Die Hard 2 better than original Die Hard. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that thought.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
And the original Predator is better than Predator 2.
True.
Yeah, although Predator 2 was the first one I saw.
Was it?
Oh,
See,
really?
I saw Predator first. I did see
Okay.
the original Predator first before I saw Predator 2. Um, and also that's another Danny Glover's another guy we could have also put up there, and
Yeah,
I wouldn't have scoffed at that at all. Those are some good ones, and I'm actually surprised nobody brought up Die Hard. But
Die Hard?
as the greatest action movie of all time.
I think we already did earlier, didn't we?
No, I just asked everybody who their favorite was, like what they thought the best of all time
Oh, I
was.
thought we were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, just in general.
Oh.
Didn't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, Die Hard is a solid contender too.
This is a solid contender. Yeah. Sorry. Anywho, so Neil, great pick. Arnold Schwarzenegger, certainly on our Mount Rushmore Plus One. I like saying that Mount Rushmore Plus One, so I'm going to keep it. Let's coin it.
Copyright. Boom. I don't give a flick.
Gary, why don't you give us our number 2 slot? Let's see if we can all agree.
For me, number 2, I think I've got to put up Mel Gibson for my number 2. I think that Mel Gibson's been in a whole lot of movies over many decades that are really good. I think he's got I think he's got the look of kind of like a hero or an action star. I think that he's got a lot of good lines, that like memorable characters, like in Lethal Weapon, like when he's like, jumping off the roof with the guy, I think that's, so I'm going to say Mel Gibson for me.
Okay. I can't think of an actor that has been in so many top level different century and different time period action films than Mel Gibson. So that's a good one, because I mean, from Braveheart was back in the 1300s when that was going on.
Yeah, I think it was
1200s,
century, yeah,
something like that. 13th, 14th century. The Patriot. We are soldiers. You talked about Lethal Weapon. That's a good one. I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
Has he been?
I'm not going to argue with you on that one. What's up?
Has he been in any future ones?
Neil, do you remember? Has Mel Gibson been in a future one? I don't think so.
Not that I could think of off the top of my head.
Was he in Ender's Game? I feel like he was on a bridge of a ship.
Harrison Ford was.
Harrison Ford was in Ender's Game. And I'm gonna throw mine in. I like how we're starting out. I like the Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like the Mel Gibson. And I know we didn't really bring up superhero movies in this one. But I just, they're technically action, but not quite the same thing for what we're talking about. More real. What's up?
So I guess technically Mad Max is set in a dystopian future.
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Perfect. Look at that. Okay, Mel Gibson, you're in, Mel. I love it, baby. I love it. I am personally gonna have to. I'm gonna have to throw Jackie Chan in just for. I know he did mostly kung fu, and then he did break into the American scene big time with Rush Hour and then Shanghai Nights and Shanghai Noon. I know there were parts of those that were really campy and cheesy, but the action that he brings, it's a different style. And as much as I love Bruce Lee, as much as I like Jet Li, as Jean-Claude Van Damme as well, I just don't think there's anybody who's ever cornered the market for martial arts and kung fu films like Jackie Chan did, especially a lot of his earlier work. And for those of you that aren't as familiar with some of the films that we were talking about like an hour ago when I brought them up, please go and watch them, because they're a lot of fucking fun. Just the bad ADR and the delayed kick sound effects, but it's actually where the kung fu is real, and it's not. A lot of times, like when I was watching the 95 version of Mortal Kombat today, in those opening round fights, you see the actors kind of moving slower, and you kind of see them like anticipating the kick to come. You don't see that in these kung fus, because a lot of the cuts, it's just a wide and you're seeing two guys fight. And a lot of times there were a lot of injuries because they would fucking hit each other, and that's what the cool thing was. It wasn't all like, hey, I'm going to stop 3 inches from your face. If you don't move when you're supposed to, I'm going to knock you the fuck out. And that's what made it look realistic. And that's what I loved. So anyways, Jackie Chan for me. I'll leave it up to you guys to yay or nay. Neil, what do you think?
So I would have said no, other than the fact that I think Kung Fu needs to be represented in there. And the fact that he's been so successful in both American market, Asian market, and just the fact that he does basically everything on his own, I will say yes. I think he should be in the top 5.
Good man, and it totally cool if you didn't agree with me, but I'm glad that you do. Gary, how about you?
Oh yeah, I think Jackie Chan is a solid person to put up on the Mount Rushmore plus one. I think that not only does he have a very extensive body of work that spans 4 decades at least, I think that he's also had a range of characters. Like some of his characters in the movie have been very serious, and then some of them have been much more light and comedic. I think he's been a great ambassador for martial arts to the United States, and I think that his movies are always very entertaining, which sometimes I think that action movies can start to feel really boring after a while if it's the same thing. Look at like Revenge of the Sith, like the lightsaber fight at the end, it just got really boring.
Yeah.
But Jackie Chan, he always keeps his choreography very exciting and entertaining, and it's like moving around, like falling down a building and being in a new area. So yeah, I think Jackie Chan is an excellent person to put on Mount Rushmore plus one.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So our current Mount Rushmore plus one has the Governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mel Gibson, and Jackie Chan. Let's loop back around, and we're going to go. I don't want to do Snake on this one. Neil, I'm going to let you throw another one out. Who do you got? Who are you thinking?
I mean, if we're talking about the greatest of all time, being up on that big board, Mount Rushmore plus one, I think you've got to put Tom Cruise on there.
Yeah, Jack Reacher. Edge of Tomorrow. I forgot about Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
That might be up in my
so
top 5.
Good. It's
it might
so
be
unappreciated.
It really is.
It's really a fantastic movie. Like
Oblivion too, if you haven't seen that, by the way, really
and it's got one of the best actors of all time, Bill Paxton, in it. So
yeah,
it's true. The only man to be killed by a predator, an alien, and Terminator.
Yeah. And apparently, I love Bill Paxton. He was great in all of his movies.
Tom Cruise.
I'm okay with this one actually. Tom Cruise is because Tom Cruise is so versatile. Like he'll do hand-to-hand combat. He'll do weapons combat. He'll do like sneaking around.
Yeah.
Fighter pilot.
I know. Driving cars like Days of Thunder. Like I would.
And he does, like Steve McQueen, like Neil said earlier, he does his own motorcycle ride. He does his own stunts on those for the most part.
And he also can really nail dramatic roles really well. I mean,
he can.
Rain Man or
that's a good point. He might be, as far as we talk about Mel Gibson being the most versatile in, or having the most experience in every era of civilization, including the future, with his movies. Tom Cruise might have the most as far as styles of action. He might have the most versatile resume. So that's a good point, Neil and Gary. Okay, yeah, because of that, you convinced me. I will bow to that one. Okay. I will indeed. Okay.
It is decided.
It is decided. All right, we are
finish him.
Finish him. A flawless victory. By the way, they said flawless. Sung said that in Mortal Kombat probably 4 or 5 times. There was only one flawless victory in that entire fucking movie, when Sub-Zero froze the dude that tried to jump and kick him, and then he just flew into the wall and exploded.
Yeah, because you only say flawless
Spoiler
victory
alert.
From 95? Not the remake.
Because you only have flawless victory when you don't take any damage.
Yeah, exactly. All the other ones, the guys got hit every single time. If they got kicked in the chest and pounded in the face.
Sometimes when you're playing with your brother, he'll just put you in the corner and just keep hitting you. You can't get out of the corner of the screen, and you just
that sounds like
stop.
Adam. Sounds like Adam all day.
Does sound like Adam.
This was
Is
Tom.
that Tom?
That
oh
was
my
Tom.
God.
Yep.
Tom needs to listen to more of our episodes so he can comment on these.
So, okay. So coming up on our last person, who are we going to pick? Who's going to fill out the Mount Rushmore?
Gary,
some very, very good candidates.
There are some really good ones.
Well,
it's a tough choice.
Let's take a look. Okay. So currently on this list, we've got Jackie Chan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mel Gibson, and Tom Cruise. Okay. Mm-hmm. That is our Mount Rushmore, and we need a +1. Okay. Left over from our current list, we've still got Will Smith, Harrison Ford, Denzel Washington, Kate Beckinsale, Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, Keanu Reeves, that's a good one, Jason Statham, Sean Connery, Sylvester Stallone, also good, and Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of solid ones here.
Yeah, we do. It's tough.
Oh God. I really want to say Denzel. I really do. I just, now that if we're looking at just solely action films, I don't know if he's done enough variety and enough on the spectrum of types of action films to warrant me putting him on that list. Because although I do think he is the most badass actor in general, whether he's a villain or the hero, most of his roles are always cops or a guy seeking revenge, and he typically uses that hand-to-hand combat or like a 9mm, and he's just super talented with it, and that's it. Those are the action heroes he plays, but he's very good at it, and if we're looking
I agree with you. I love Denzel, but I don't think for this category he's made the fit.
All around or just dominates it.
Yeah. I think Keanu Reeves is the clear pick here.
I honestly was thinking Keanu Reeves too. Neil, what about you?
He was the first one I threw up on my big board, so I definitely agree. Keanu Reeves.
Okay, and we look at, the guy who has the most hits on YouTube for an actor actually training for a role, outside of Jackie Chan, so you gotta award the dedication. So, okay, that completes our Mount Rushmore plus one.
I did not think we would be not including Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone.
I know, right?
It's when I think that's the beauty of this podcast is when we take the stereotypical answers and then we start to dissect it and argue it and debate it. And then we start looking at all the facts and then we start coming across with things we would never have expected.
Right. Yeah.
Looking at it, God, I wouldn't have expected that either. Bruce Willis, he's only got a couple action films, if you really look at it, that are like big time, outside of the Die Hard series. And we talked about Total Recall and then
Mad About You, that one episode.
Mad About You, the one episode. And what was the other one you were surprised on? I'm sorry.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. Rambo for sure.
He's done so many Rockies. It's kind of just a slugfest.
Yeah. And I still consider Rocky as like, if we're going to talk like greatest sports actors of all time, just because he played Rocky for so long, I'd have to put him in that list. But honestly, for me, it's hard for me to consider Rocky an action film just because I just associate boxing with a sport, and I don't know. That's just me.
Okay, so for our top 5, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Right.
Keanu Reeves, Jackie Chan, Mel Gibson, and Tom Cruise.
Yes.
I approve this list.
I approve this list as well.
I approve this list as well. Okay.
All right. That's our Mount Rushmore plus one. Tune in next week where we go over the top action cinematographers of all time.
Shablamo!
And top Foley artists of I don't know.
Foley.
That one's going to be all editing, by the way, and you're going to
top
spend like 2
action
days
makeup
on it.
artists.
Oh my God. Top action screenwriters of all time. I don't fucking know.
Top script supervisors for an action movie.
No,
that would be a good one for best conversion from an original story to a screenplay.
Oh, just talking about the best movies that had that jump. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's another topic for another day. People.
God. It's okay. This has been a fun one. I'm glad we did this one tonight instead of just going over all of Arnold's movies. But there's a lot of great ones.
Yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger has just so many movies.
I was watching Eraser the other day. That's also a really good movie.
Yeah,
there's just too many.
I can't think of a movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger is in that I'm not like, this is a great movie. Like,
what was the one where he got like duplicated? Fifth Day, Sixth Day.
It was 6 Day.
6 Day was okay. But see, that was still good though. Like even I say that, and I'm like, oh, that was actually still good.
Yeah, there's not like oh my God, this is.
He had a couple. All of it, for the most part, his movies post 2010 have been pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie; those ones have been pretty shitty.
Yeah,
but he had a solid 30 years where
But he's not really like the lead actor in those, is he? Like, because he was just like a cameo in the Terminator ones.
It wasn't the Terminator ones that I was referring to. The Terminator ones are actually the good ones. They had the newest Terminator with him and Linda Hamilton in it, and not Brie Larson. Maybe it was Brie Larson. Whoever played the new Terminator. I can't remember. Anyways, it's late. It's 1:30 in the morning.
But yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, a lot of great movies.
A lot of great ones. So let's go ahead really quick before we wrap out for today. Let's go ahead and give our recommendations for the week. I know we've talked about a lot of great action films tonight. And so I want to go ahead and give Gary a chance to start us off this week.
You don't want to start with Neil in case I steal his idea?
Well, Neil's been actually good. Yeah, Neil's been starting on the recommendations for the last couple weeks, actually. So I'm going to let you go ahead and start this week.
I think the movie that I'm going to recommend is the one that I believe encapsulates the best of the action movies we've been talking about here today. Sure. And that's Last Action Hero. It's got Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, good movie. Yeah. And it's got, comedy to it. It's got action to it. It's just, it's a really fun movie. And that I really like. And for some reason it bombed at the box office, but it was really good.
Yeah.
You're a farmer. Heal some acres.
Love it. Neil, how about you?
Well, kind of going along with Gary, we put the Governor right in the middle of our Mount Rushmore Plus One. So I'm going to go ahead and pick another of his movies. I think probably my favorite movie he did is 1987's The Running Man. Very, very great movie, I think. Not a lot of people have seen it. That's my recommendation.
He just never stops running in that movie. It must have made him so tired.
I would love to just pick T2 Judgment Day all time and tell people to go see the greatest action film ever. But we've already talked about it ad nauseum, and so I'll leave it alone. I am gonna go ahead and recommend two. I want to recommend so many, but I'll stick with two. I'm sorry. I am going to go see, for those of you that I know for this panel, it was surprising when I said a lot of people have not heard of or seen Underworld, but a lot of people haven't. And if you like action films and you're big into the battles between species and races, as far as like the Terminator franchise or like the Blade franchise, that kind of stuff, the first Underworld is by far one of it's my favorite paranormal action action series. If they had changed some things in Blade 2, then I might be singing a different tune. But Underworld, the first one for sure. I did not see the fourth one. I think it was like Underworld Bloodline or something. I still need to watch that one.
That was the one where she came back.
Yes,
I think I did see that one.
Yeah, that one. I heard it was a little weaker, but it was still good because Beckinsale is awesome. But that I would say that. But like I was saying, go watch, if you have not seen Jackie Chan's earlier work, go watch Legend of the Drunken Master, because even if you don't like the script on that, the kung fu scenes in that film are by far it's one of the movies he actually experienced the most injuries on because of how many times he got hit and how many takes they had to do. Those collectively the best martial arts series of fights in cinematic history, in my opinion. Go check it out, please. It's a fantastic movie. Legend of the Drunken Master. Anyways, I think we're all out of time this week, unfortunately. So I'm Johnny.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Neil.
Thanks for joining us this week, guys, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you for tuning in to Lead Feather Productions' podcast of I Don't Give a Flick. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so that you never miss an episode. Podcasts are available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are hosted. I Don't Give a Flick is hosted and produced by Johnny Blackburn, Gary Elmore, and Neil Riley. Executive producer, Johnny Blackburn. Technical director, editor, and audio mixer, Gary Elmore. I Don't Give a Flick is a Lead Feather production. Copyright Lead Feather Productions 2021.